Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are live here. We have most of the players of the Raven Watch, which you have. Welcome. We are live here. Darcy. We have Darcy's most of the players of the Raven Watch, which you have. Welcome. We have Shanna Germain, Reynolds, most Cordell, and I am your game master, Monte Cook. And we're here tonight to kind of chat, sort of give you the behind the scenes look on the last couple of episodes, which comprise episode 4 and plus the side scenes that we just saw that we were all just laughing about behind the scenes as Sevian accosted some poor woman and tried to drag her into his time loop. But luckily it worked out okay. What'd you guys think of this this session overall? It was kind of started out with a lot of research and talking to people, and ended with a great big bloody fight.
I mean, the fight was very brutal, says the person who got beaten pretty badly by it.
I was kind of surprised that Seru jumped in there and was like, I'll fight. I'm made of glass.
Was Sevian thinking about volunteering for a fight? You kind of knew that you had to have somebody fight, right? I mean, that was the deal. That's how Bode's deal was going to work, and you knew that ahead of time, really, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Sevian thought he was going to fight until he got a leather jacket that didn't actually help.
Maybe. Well, I'm glad Seru stepped in.
So now if we're going to go deep behind the scenes, what Bruce was thinking, I happen to know, was that in the very early versions of Invisible Sun, you could just buy a leather jacket and it would give you +1 armor, and that doesn't work quite that way anymore. And I think it was actually, you could sort of see it. I mean, I knew, right? Because as I'm watching in that episode, I could kind of see that moment of realization happen on camera. Oh, I don't actually get +1 armor for this. It's just a cool looking leather jacket.
I will probably die.
Cool. Well, Incalia wasn't thinking about jumping into the ring, was she?
Oh, probably not. Unless, there was a point where she, people were doing things to her friend that she might have stepped in, but it looked like Seru was holding his own. But yeah, no, she wouldn't have jumped into that, I don't think. Not without good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. The cicatrix, Darcy's not here, but the cicatrix is she's kind of a fighter. I could see her getting involved, right? I mean, she's pretty tough, but it didn't surprise me, I will say, knowing that this was coming, that it was going to end up being Seru who was fighting.
And I think part of that is because Seru, when I was first conceiving of him as a character, I was going to have him be a maker.
Oh, right.
Which is why there's a lot of, that crafting aspect of what he's doing. But when we were discussing the early parts of our character, Shauna really wanted to play a maker. So I said, you be a maker. I want to try a weaver and see if I can kind of build a similar concept with the weaver. So instead of crafting a bunch of armor and weapons for themselves, I've got this organic weaver magic, but I still wanted to keep the, I want to be really good at fighting aspect. But I hadn't actually bought any skills for my character to do that yet. So I was just completely relying on being able to spend Ben and sortilege. And I got almost completely skunked by it.
It's funny to me that in all of the MCG in-house games and play tests and everything that we've done with Invisible Sun, we started out with a long-term game that didn't have any makers, and then I don't know if it's because of that or just the way it worked, but now it seems like everyone, like in the other games we're playing now and whatnot, everyone's a maker. So
in my Thursday game of Invisible Sun with MCG, we have 5 players and 3 of them are makers.
Holy cow, I didn't realize that. Yeah. I was thinking too about weavers, because you guys have so much just so much versatility. Like weavers, I feel like this is also true in the other game that we play. you get to make these giant sort of statements at crucial moments, and they become this like they become this hinge upon which a story turns really dramatically, because it's like suddenly, oh, I'm going to do this whole thing that no one knows that I can do and that I didn't know I could do. And then you pull it off, and it's just this amazing transformation. I felt like the fight was like that too at the very end. It was just this Weaver magic all coming together.
Yeah. We do a lot of all or nothing. It's just like, I'm going to throw all of my sorcery at this and see what sticks.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, I think, a part of being a Weaver. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You can weave minor effects, but they seem to be the one character, the one order that really has the ability to just pump all of their resources into one big bang, and so that happens a lot. And that's that's an interesting point of view. That's an interesting thing to have happen in the course of a game, right? Because it's an interesting strategy, I guess is the word I'm looking for, right? Of using lots of different things and kind of spreading yourself out, doing a lot of different things, or just one big thing and then you're kind of done. It would be a shame, I think, if all the characters worked that way, right? Because that's kind of how you end up in other games where you've got all the characters kind of do their one big thing and then everyone just wants to go home and go to bed. So we saw Seru's big trick at the end, not trick, but his big spell, which kind of finished the fight for him. But you guys, I know you guys had other things in mind, kind of in the background, that you were planning on doing, or that you were trying to do to help Seru, use with little magic and everything. Did you have? I mean, what if Seru's thing wouldn't have worked? Did you have a? I don't even know if at that point it's a plan B. At that point it was like a plan E or F.
I feel like I should say yes, so Sarah thinks that we did.
In hindsight, I would have had some, protective angels like ready to swoop in or something. Yeah. That would have been a great idea, but I feel like it didn't happen as well, I think, or as quickly.
And Sarah, I think you just had so much confidence that we were like, all right. And then suddenly it was halfway through the fight, and I thought for sure that we were going to have a character die in the middle of this. And then I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, I kind of forced your hand there because things started to go wrong, and every turn you guys are like, okay, I just have to send you some sortilege, give you some sortilege.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keeping me alive rather than helping me win, because there were priorities, and not dying was the priority.
I like that image too, right? You can imagine that pretty easily in a story where all the characters who are at the sidelines are just kind of trying to influence things using their magic, not a specific spell or anything, but just
we're just using our will, right? Our sortilege as Vizsla to actually affect the reality of the actuality to the extent we can, right? I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Darcy had that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Darcy had that great moment too, where she distracted, where she used a spell to distract, and so I think that was like this subterfuge turning point that was really wonderful, because it kind of helped you gain your balance again. And so it was really fun to watch her kind of step in. And
rewatching that last part of that episode, there was something that came up. And Kalia has that spell that makes someone repeat their same action over and over again.
That's right.
And I wish that would have come up, because your idea of waiting until someone cheered for Seru and then make them do it over and over.
I really wanted to do that. That is such a fun spell, to have someone repeat themselves. And clearly it's designed to be negative, right? So someone just sort of repeats. We used it in a different game where someone, what was that? They were just repeating something really horrible. I can't remember what it was.
Well,
Go ahead, Monty.
You used it on the thief.
That's right. Right. And so it's such a fun spell. And so to use it in a positive way just seemed like it would have been really cool. It's nice that one of the great things I love about, spells and incantations is there's so much versatility. You can use them in such creative ways. It's like nothing is closed off. And so it's as creative as you can come up with, which I think is just really fun.
Certainly when designing a lot of the magical practices in the game, the spells, the incantations and everything, I tried really hard to not like think of the ideal way in which something could be used, but just kind of produce effects. So to encourage that player creativity of, well, how can I make use of this, right? And you know, that's an interesting case, right, where all different ways that you can make it. You know, if you're making someone repeat the same action over and over again. So that's really cool. I'm glad that worked out. So we're getting a few questions from chat, but before we get to that, I had a few other things I wanted to ask you guys. It's always interesting, actually, to be the game master and, you know, after the fact, say, well, what did you guys think? Right? So, like, you know, you had started out this whole episode, or rather, this whole session, with the idea that you needed to get to the red, right? You know, number of you had, because of the things that the girl from the other shore had told you, a lot of you had reasons to get to the red. It wasn't until the middle of this session that you kind of learned about the whole Undersling connection and Bode and all of that stuff. So what were you guys thinking would happen? Like, how did you think you were going to get to the red when you started out? Did you have a vision in mind? Did you have a expectation?
I mean, I thought that Bode might have like an object of power, or maybe he was a zealot and had the ability to create like some sort of sneaky side portal. And maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he just has a sensitivity to where this border is. But yeah, we were just kind of hoping that it would work out in the way we wanted. But I was thinking he just had an object or spell.
But I mean, even before you had ever heard of Bode.
Yeah, prior to that, I imagined that, you know, Savion has kind of this unearned confidence that he just kind of blusters through, and I kind of feel. But he probably imagined, I know that he imagined, well, I will just find the right demon, and the right demon will tell me how to get to the red, because demons are of the red. Some of the demons are of the red. So that's what he imagined would happen, but this other thing fell into our lap, so that worked out well.
And cool. Kalia ate that whole guidebook to the red,
right?
in Mentors.
Does Savion ever know about that?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, that would drive him so insane. The fact that you did that and you have all that knowledge.
She's very secretive about her hungers. And so, you know, I think that reading that made her think, we are never going to get to the red. This is like, and if we do get there, we're going to totally die. And so I think Ngali was doing her best to like put on a brave face and be like, okay, we got this. The whole time thinking, oh, this is going to go so poorly. And so to find out that all we had to do is fight, not even her, like someone else had to fight, it was sort of like, all right, we can do this.
Cool. Let's see. So, let's take some questions from chat, and maybe that will spur on some other discussions as well. So the first one, I am going to have a very difficult time saying this name. Zach Oglesby is from Zach Oglesby. And the question is, how does the team earn money in Invisible Sun? And so generally speaking, every character based on a certain aspect of their character that you choose when you create a character provides you with an income. But it becomes sort of beholden upon the player to kind of come up with what that is. So what are your guys' specific, you know, where does your income stream come from, basically?
Well, Savion's income stream comes from the fact that he owns, oh no, I'm getting my kickers mixed up. He's a clockmaker. He creates clocks, right? He has a weather station back from Shadow, but he still has this kind of interest in mechanisms, so that's what he does. Right. Does he make, I thought he just sold clocks. Does he make clocks? Does he do like the clockwork stuff? All right. Maybe. Yes. Get back to you on that. He definitely has a shop where he sells clocks. Right. I'm not sure. I would imagine that he fiddles a bit. But you're right. Maybe he also buys from other. Sure, yeah.
He doesn't. He's not an artist though. He doesn't do like the artistry.
Oh no,
on all of that kind of thing, right?
But he
how about right? I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but Seru, Sean, what does Seru do?
I mean, he makes glass stuff. He's a glass sculptor, but in particular, most of it, I think, his income is that he makes sortiers, which are an invisible sun implement that Vizsla used, which is the thing that is now in fashion. It's this curved thing, and his are glass. They could be metal or whatever. But previously, people tended to use wands or staffs, but those have fallen out of fashion, and now sortiers are the thing. So it's that's what he makes, and he gets help from Inkalia, who is a maker, and she magics them up as kindled items.
And what about Inkalia?
I like magics them up as a phrase. Inkalia works at like a jewelry store where she adds where she magics up the things that people buy, but she has very specific guidelines where she won't do bad things to them. So she won't do something that harms someone, within reason. So she only adds certain types of things.
One of the ideas behind Invisible Sun is that, like sometimes games will, allow you to do, downtime activities or something like that. And we wanted to really embrace the idea and even go a step further and kind of say that whatever, that stuff that happens on the side, that's sort of the main thing that Vizsla do, right? They're studying, they're doing their craft work or whatever it is that they do to earn money, and sort of these crazy wild escapades that they get into occasionally when they all get together. That's sort of the exception. So it's assumed that between sessions, weeks will pass of events, and then things get crazy again. And so that's why Vizsla just have sort of an income built in like that. So let's see. So Other Doc says, when will the Order of Hone Thought sourcebook and recruitment kit be coming out?
I love the idea of making a recruitment kit. Oh my goodness, that would be so much fun.
I think first we need to establish that the Cicatrix is actually able to recruit anyone at all. That's
true. True. She has to get one before we do that.
I imagine she will get somebody.
I only say that because Darcy's not on screen and she can't give me a dirty look for saying it.
Yeah, she would be kicking you under the table right now. Right? You perv.
Rourke9 has a question. He says, I was wondering about apostates. Did you know that a category needed to exist outside the other orders from the beginning, or did that come later in the process? So speaking as a designer, I knew that it had to happen right away at the beginning. As soon as I attached a very vital game mechanic to actually belonging to an organization, right? And so you had to choose which order you belonged to, and I did that very deliberately so that characters would be directly tied into the setting and would automatically have like this group of people that they could use as resources, but also had to answer to. But as soon as I did that, I knew that there would be players who would just utterly reject. I'm not going to join any group, right? I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to walk my own path. So I knew that it had to exist right away. In fact, really early on in development, I wasn't exactly sure how the orders were going to all shake out and which I had a lot of different ideas and I didn't know which one was going to totally make it in, but I always knew apostates were going to make it in.
And I think they're a popular choice. I mean, there are a lot of players who just like to reject the structure of an order. Like in our home game, we have an apostate, and in this game we have an apostate, and in my Thursday game we have an apostate. In Darcy's game, the woman with hollow eyes, there's a character who actually got kicked out of their order as part of the ongoing narrative, and so I believe they burned the character's old character sheet and redid it as an apostate.
Plus, those cool. Apostate character sheets that Bear made are just they're just so amazing.
Apostate is a great way to start out the game with sort of a backstory in that sense, right? You can, I'm the apostate in the home game we have, and really an apostate is not I wouldn't go towards an apostate. I'd go for a maker or a weaver or something like that. I was like, well, what would be the weirdest thing I could play? That would be an apostate, right? But it gives me an idea of what horrible thing happened to my character that made me decide to say fuck everything, right? So it's an interesting character choice. It sets you down a story arc that you can follow up, which we did, and it was very interesting, and I'm still enjoying it.
So I've got a couple of questions about the directed campaign, which is something that we've made available, where you can kind of sign up and get material sent to you every month to run your Invisible Sun campaign. The first question is from Captain Twitchets. How much will the directed campaign hang on future books like Book M, etc.? It won't hang on those future books, but it will incorporate them in some ways directly in the story. Specifically Book M, for example. Book M, there is a thing in the Actuality. It is a lost book of magic that is suddenly found, and now there's all these sort of new spells and things available, and that event is incorporated, is involved in the directed campaign, but you don't have to have the actual MCG product Book M in order for that to work. But it certainly is a nice synthesis. For example, there will be places in Secrets of Silent Streets, which is another upcoming source book, that will almost certainly get incorporated into the directed campaign, but the directed campaign will provide you enough information that you don't have to have that book. But again, you'll see a really nice synthesis. So Zeros.bar asks regarding the directed campaign, I won't be able to play weekly, maybe just every few weeks. I'm worried about the subscription getting ahead of what my players are able to accomplish. Is there a provision for that? Yes, there is. And basically the directed campaign goes at I guess you can't make it go faster, but you can make it go slower. And by that, I just mean that at various points, we're going to ask you, basically, did your players choose to, choose option A or choose option B in the course of the narrative? And until you answer that question, you won't get any further update. That your subscription will be paused until you answer the question. Then when you answer it, it'll start up again. So those will be points at which you can kind of play catch up. And we're gonna the directed campaign. If you sign up, it will go for a year if you get the update every month. But the directed campaign will last quite a bit longer than that, because we know, first of all, that not everybody is going to sign up right away in the very first month. And second of all, we know that not everyone is going to be able to play through all the material in a single year, because it's going to be a lot. I think you'll find a lot of meaty content. But that's a good question. So there's a question that just is asking us to tease secrets in the cube, that people are talking about how we say some secrets won't be found. That's possible. It is possible that there are secrets contained within the Black Cube that will not be found. I will tease you by saying that there are secrets hidden within the texts of the books themselves and ways in which you can look at text. There are secrets hidden within the art that you can try to find. There are secrets within the physical thing itself, right? The pieces, the components, the box. So, if you want to engage with the game in that way, don't rule anything out. There's places to look no matter where you turn.
It was so much fun putting those together, like working on secrets as a team, and some of them are very hard and awesome. I love them.
Yeah, some of them are very hard. Yeah, but I'm sure that if like that's not your thing, if like finding some weird code or whatever is not your thing, but you still kind of want to know what the secrets are, I'm sure somebody's going to come up with a place to where they're going to post all that stuff and whatnot, and just like you can go to Wikipedia and read the plots of all the TV shows and movies and books and stuff that you missed. There's always the internet is the source of all that stuff.
I imagine that a community will sprout up like they did when we did the caches too. We did early secrets and caches right before the Kickstarter, and there was this great community on like G+ and Facebook where they were like talking about helping each other figure out the secrets. And I would imagine something like that'll happen as well.
That would be very fun to see.
Super cool.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. So GamerX27 asks, how exactly do those changeries work? Is there a limit on what they can do to someone and how accessible they are to the populace of Indigo? They basically, the changeries require a particular currency that is available in the game. The standard currency in the city of Satyrine are orbs, and different kinds of orbs, and there are glass orbs and crystal orbs and all these different kinds of orbs. But then Vizsla have a whole different set of currencies, the most common of which are called mage coins. And you can only earn mage coins usually by doing magical things, because you can only really get them from other Vizsla, and Vizsla aren't going to, you're not going to go buy a sandwich with a mage coin. And so changeries require mage coins, which is to say that mostly it's going to be Vizsla who are going to go to the changeries, but not always. And changes brought about in the changeries all have levels attached to them in the same exact way that like spells and rituals and everything else has a level attached to it. And so that kind of governs the dramatic change that is involved, but it might involve, like if you go to a changery and you get wings, now you can fly. And, we have to incorporate that we have to quantify in the game as well as in the flavor. So suddenly that becomes a much more expensive change than just, making your skin checkerboard colors, that kind of thing. So there's different ways to look at it in that way. But there really are no limits. The limits are your imagination. I mean, the changeries exist. I'll just pull back the curtain and tell you that the changeries exist because it's an extremely surreal setting, and I wanted players to have the opportunity to dive right in and make their characters just as weird and surreal as the setting. So whatever weird appearance you want to give your character, as long as you can shell out a few mage coins, you're good. Let's see. So, here's a great question. This one is from Darcy, actually, related directly to that. So at some point later on in this same narrative with these characters, would any of you get a change at a changery? And if so, what would it be?
I would say that Seru definitely would. I mean, he already, his forte is that he shatters into glass. You can see it in the character illustration that his hand is, transformed to glass. He already breaks into pieces and comes back together. And so just reinforcing his whole glass theme, I'm sure that at some point he would get, at least his arm, so you could have the glass sword and the glass arm and just look really weird like that. I'm not sure about the whole face thing because he's got his little mustache. That'd be kind of hard to glass, but definitely something going more glass.
A glass mustache. I like it.
I don't think I would. I don't think Sevian would. I think he has this plan to have. He has tattoos of like things on his body.
Oh yeah.
Maybe along those lines. But I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have 5 angel rings in one hand and 5 demon rings in the other. This is aspirational. Each ring will be the name of a demon he's learned or an angel he's learned. But that's kind of a physical object. I don't think that would be a changery sort of object. So Savian, I don't know about that. I think it's all accessories, not changeries.
Interesting. I was thinking the same thing with Inkalia because she's so focused on making things, right? Making her appearance change through the things that she makes. And so I think if she was going to do a changery thing, it would be to permanently incorporate something that she has made into her body, like maybe her mask, if she ever went to that route, or something else like kind of along those lines, a thing that she's created that feels really part of her. I don't think her skills yet are at the place where she's created that thing. So it would be something like when she continues to get better and better, and I think she'll sort of know it when she makes it, and it'll become part of her in that way.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Shanna, because in our Tuesday game, my character Callahan, his forte is that he has this thing called a Phanodon orb, which is this weird, ancient thing. And at some point, when you're developing your connection to the Phanodon orb, there are certain abilities you can unlock only if you've actually had it embedded in your body in a changery.
Cool. So. That's super cool.
As a little teaser, I can tell you too that Book M introduces a whole new type of secret that requires you to have certain changes in a changery before you can even access them. So like, I'm on the spot. I can't think of an example.
I was thinking of the topiary one, or.
Right. Yeah. Right. You turn your body kind of into a topiary, right? But you can trap people within your own brambles and branches and whatnot. So they're kind of straightforward like that. Like if you do this crazy thing to your physical form, you get this ability. But you have to know that you have to go to the changery and you have to learn the secret. So there's an opportunity cost. All right. Let's see. So, this is going to be a question. We're going to have to try to remember this question. I'm sure it'll come up after the next time we do one of these, because the question is really about what you thought about traveling to the red. But let's take it from this end of it, from the end of this session. Like, as you guys are preparing to go to the red, what were your expectations? What were you thinking it was going to be like?
Well, I think for me, having read the guidebook, I kind of had this sort of sense of what it was going to be like, and it seemed really scary. But also, the fact that Sevian was tracking down. Was tracking down his dad there seemed like I kept thinking it can't be that bad, but then he would talk about his dad and how bad his dad was, and then I would think, okay, it's really bad. And so I was having these very weird mixed conflicting emotions about okay, no, I'm sure it's fine. Oh no, this is bad. And I never settled on one or the other until we got there.
I didn't really have I just figured it would be terrible. But I was open to whatever it was going to be. It was actually worse than I was expecting, which is weird to think. Usually your imagination make things worse than they are, but it was pretty terrible. Well, you're saying, yeah. I didn't know what to. You're saying not to, Oh, sorry, that was a little bit of a forward looking, but yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I was just ready.
Saru, who works with glass all the time, which is a very fragile thing, and part of the expectations of working in glass is that you're going to make mistakes and things are going to break, and you just pick up the pieces and you throw it back in the furnace and you melt it down. And the red is all about destruction of things, and that's the aspect of it. And even his own personal magic as a person who shatters into fragments or splinters into fragments is he's always breaking apart and coming back together. So Saru was very curious to see like that sort of transformation happening as an external thing, as opposed to just what goes on in his body and in his work. So like Invisible Sun is very much a reflection, like the Path of Suns is the nature of reality, but it's also the map of the human soul, as within, right, so without. And so I was really looking forward to seeing how this whole realm that is all about destruction can continue to exist as a thing that isn't gone by now. So that was a really interesting concept for him.
That makes sense. Cool. Well, here's a fun question to kind of wrap things up with. It's from Dasha Daka, and he said, or they say, sorry, Bowie is my favorite. Here's a question. How much Bowie is referenced in Invisible Sun? A lot, actually, although it's all pretty subtle. You have to know your Bowie in order to pick up on some of them. And that continues not only just in the Black Cube, but it actually continues on into some of the other stuff too. But yeah, I like Bowie too. So
we should make a playlist. We should make a playlist for people to listen to as they're reading the books.
Yeah, there would be a lot of Bowie's final album on there. I think I had that on heavy rotation working on this book or on this game. There'd be a lot of other stuff too, Swans and Liars.
I was going to say the Swans.
Yeah, and a lot of weird, instrumental stuff. Qualia, which is just a coincidence that there's a band that I really like called Qualia that is also a big concept in the game.
There are no coincidences, Monty.
That's right. That is right. It is all synchronicity. So you guys have any last thoughts on where we are in what Raven Wants What You Have at this point? Or are you
I'm just really looking forward into where we're going next. Devian feels personally that he's going to come face to face with his destiny.
Yeah. At this point, I remember thinking, how can this possibly go well? Which, even though we have this competition going, kind of made me feel bad for Devian.
Yeah, that's true. He just wasn't really thinking. He was probably not. He was trying to put things out of his mind, thinking this is going to end terribly. How could it end well?
Yeah. I mean, just one thing. I watched the next episode recently, and there's this one bit where we're in the red, and we're like, "Oh, hey, let's do this thing," and we do the thing, and we're all just like, "Oh no." Oh no, we should have done. There's one that's we should not have done this now, and there's another one we should have done this long ago. It's just, yeah, we messed up.
But that's really what makes for interesting stories. The next few episodes are definitely super, super interesting and fun and action packed, and it's really cool.
Really
looking forward
intense.
to it. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys all for watching, joining us, and kind of getting a little peek behind the scenes with us talking about our characters. And please tune in next week, same time, for the beginning of the next session.
Red Sun.
Head into the red. Yeah.
Yay.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Everybody.